back in film quite some time ago, totally as a hobbyist. My good friend Charlie and I, well over 10, 15 years ago, would trample all over the place with no freaking clue what we were doing, shooting film left and right. And then about 5 years ago, I got pretty serious about it, and kind of like Sin, had a message to my madness as I wanted to be in a gallery. Slightly different reasons than Cindy. I wanted to sell my work. I am painstakingly shy. The better person to sell my work is a gallery. They can do it much better with much more finesse than me bumbling over my words. So I've been in academics for about 25 years, and I approach everything very academically. I have great amount of envy for those of you like Liz Huntington who just go out and take these beautifully captured images, where I sit there and go, what were the settings, what were the X-Up? And I was one of those people that were madly searching around looking at everybody's details and how they captured those images. And after I got comfortable with my images and the settings and comfortable with my gear, fell into a bit of a rut. And so, kind of like authors with writer's block, I think photographers can fall into the same thing. And whether you've hit that yet or not, hopefully you never do, but I find with creative people that every once in a while you do find those little bit of lulls, a little bit of self-doubt. And I found that do all your images start to look the same? Are you shooting the same thing in and out? Are you bored with shooting the same thing in and out? With those first two, you start feeling a little uninspired. And then the one that hit home for me was, when was the last time I went shooting? I got to the point where the technical has so overtaken me, I was like, do I have the right light? It's a cloudless, bright day. What am I doing going out shooting? And I thought, well, I just have all this really nice gear to let me dust in a closet. So, what I decided to do is there's an art show down in Scottsdale, Arizona that I've been visiting for the last 3 years prior to finally getting juried in last year. And I started looking at other artists' work. Now, at the time, there was only 2 photographers in the show and a ton of painters. And right around the corner from Dennis's booth was this painter that was doing these massive landscapes with like a third of a landscape and these big skies. And he was selling. And I'm like, I like that look. Can I imitate it in an image? So after viewing his work, I started going out and taking those pictures. So I got inspired again. Who are your one of the reasons? When you look at other artists, is who's your favorite photographer or painter? Larry referenced a painter that he was using when he's doing the watercolors over his images. What's drawing you to that image? Why? What do you like about that image? Think about how their image was created. Can you tell what settings that they were using? That's a favorite game of mine, just because I get so sucked into the details. One of my favorite things to do to get inspired is go to other people's exhibits. When Kippy started the calendar, when people started submitting their things, I loved it because every once in a while I could only catch people from overhearing a conversation or seeing something on their page. But then when she started doing that calendar, if I had time and it was in my area, I was making the trip. Kudos to Sin, who travels all over from Winnemucca to see a show in Fallon and see shows in Reno and here in Carson. And seeing what other people are doing. And if you're interested in ever showing in a local art show or in a gallery, you learn from seeing what others are doing how to do it well or what to avoid. Sometimes that's the bigger lesson. And again, it's just, are you going and see other people's work and you're like, I like that. I wonder if I can go out and capture something in my style. And then observe beyond photography. Like I said, the first person after I got into my little bit of a lull was a painter. And I was watching what they were doing and I was like, okay, I've had painters contact me asking me if they could use my work as a reference, so why can't I use a painter's work and go out and see if I can replicate that as well? I didn't know Larry was doing this until Kippy contacted us and put us all in group. But another way to step out is revisiting your old work. Nothing can motivate you more than going back and seeing what you used used to do 3-4 years ago. You want inspiration? See how much you've progressed in those several years. I remember when I first started going out and shooting and I captured something, I was so excited and I get kudos from my friends. And then I go back and look at them, wow, they were really nice to me.
Oh my God, yes.
And then if you have that time to go back and look at your own work and see how you recreate it, I think that's awesome. Invest in your education. And this is the academic in me coming out. There is nothing better that you can do than investing in learning more. And in photography, there's always something you can learn. Even if you've mastered a certain technique, mastered your gear, coming to one-day workshops like this that Kippy does, Nevada Magazine, joining a local photography club, that's how I got started in getting out more. Professional workshops in the area. When you hit a certain level, and you're selling or you've achieved the standard that you want for your photography, and you're like, why would I go take a workshop from somebody? They might have regional knowledge, being famous in a local area. Why would you go take a class from them if you already know your gear and you know what you're shooting? They've already scouted the area. They know the good locations. Go take it for that. You can always learn something from somebody. Even the smallest little technique, maybe they're using a different filter than you've been using. I know Lee Woloff went and took a class with Joshua Crooks in Death Valley, and you had to pick up a few things. Two, okay. But Lee's a very accomplished photographer, and I know a lot of you've seen his images on Nevada photographers, and they're amazing. But look what you can pick up just from hanging around from someone else who does it full-time as a living as well. So one-day workshops, local photography clubs, do a plug for Shooting the West. Like I said, it's one of my favorite things to attend. I started going several years ago as a participant. 2 years ago, I got to present, and last year I got to do a workshop out at Safe Haven. If you want to be inspired and get out of your lull, if you can't find inspiration at Shooting the West, I don't know what you're doing. There's amazing speakers. Tom Bowl is there every year, and he just blows you away with energy and enthusiasm. The guest speaker they had last year I think had the entire audience in tears at one point. Poor Neil had to go on after.
I didn't even have a dog.
And she had a dog with her. He still did it. But you make those connections with other people, and you're making connections with people outside of your local area. And again, there's that inspiration there. And what has been a godsend to me has been Creative Live. If you don't know your gear, type in your Nikon D whatever, your Canon whatever, and there's probably a $19 class that will walk you through every menu on your screen. Whether you're a portrait photographer, travel, landscape, wildlife, there is a class on Creative Live for you. They always have a sale. So if the class is $79 is too much, give it a few months, it goes down. I love Creative Live. Step 4, and this is my favorite, shoot with someone else. There's so many of us who go out and you get in the habit of shooting by yourself because you can pick your destination, you can shoot what you want to shoot on your own schedule. How many of you, we're all photographers in this room, have traveled just either down the street, wherever, with a non-photographer, and you see something and you want to stop, and you either get the look of death, like I'm not stopping one more time, or that you're given a time limit, like you have 15 minutes, and you're like, I need more than 15 minutes. So, shoot with other people. Shoot with people with all different skill levels. I will tell you the first time I went out shooting with a group of people, want to talk about intimidation? Light painting Fort Churchill with Neil. That was my first time shooting out in a group. I'm fumbling with my camera, and everyone else at the time is shooting Canon. I've got my little Nikon, and I'm like fumbling in the dark, but I learned so much that night. And not only do you learn so much, you create amazing memories. How many times have you gone out by yourself and it was a dud? And you had fun because you were outside, you were doing what you liked, bad light, whatever. But if you go out with other people, the common theme you will see in all these images is we are all insanely happy and goofy. And you come up with the most crazy, amazing stories if your images didn't come out well. This is the image that Kippy used for the poster. And if I didn't have inspiration that day, I was just straight out crazy. I'm having such a good time because I'm out with people who know the area and who are teaching me things that I haven't known. Another benefit of going out with people, if you're shooting the same gear and they trust you with their lenses, you can switch it around. Every single one of these images has a smile because everyone is having a good time. And there's not, these are all serious photographers. And if you're out with people and you're having a good time, you're like, these people are crazy lunatics, but we're having an insane time. So go shoot with people. That's my, that gets me out of a lull anytime. Step 5, change your perspective and your gear. So when I decided I wanted to get into this, I wanted to be a wildlife photographer. My two heroes are Thomas Magnuson and Jim Brandenburg. And if you don't know their names, Jim Brandenburg, Wolf Photos, Nat Geographic. That's who he is. Thomas Magnuson, if you didn't see the episode on 60 Minutes a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, it'll blow you away. I don't have the patience to be a wildlife photographer. I have sat out with friends in blinds, and I'm like, why am I doing that? And then I'm talking, and I get the look like, shh.
I think I see a bird.
In landscape photography, my favorite lens is the 16 to 35. I don't even know why I have anything over 17 to 35 on that because I stay at the low end of that camera. Every single image I take is 16 to 35. And I have to break myself out of it every once in a while because all my images start to look the same. So, wildlife photographers, I know you're one. I've seen your horse shots and whatnot. What's your go-to lens?
Now I have a 200 to 500 Nikon.
Jackie?
The same.
Your go-to lens is long lens. And the wildlife photographers, your go-to lens, your long lens? Everyone goes to the long lens. So Thomas Magnuson, obviously, huge prime lenses, gives these amazing bear shots. One of his most famous bear shots is pulled back. It's the Tetons, bear crossing a river, and it shows the environment. I know when I do see wildlife, I want to do the same thing. I want to zoom in, and you want to capture that emotion. You want to see like the hairs coming off of the mouth.
Eyebrows.
Eyebrow, and it's just stunning. But then when he pulled back and you see the environment that they're in, I think it opens up an awareness as to why it's important to protect the environment that they're in. With landscape photography, I have the opposite problem. I go way back. And then we were out shooting in the Chalk Hills one time, and I got lazy, didn't want to change lenses, and we just had a telephoto lens on. And the Chalk Hills have these weird little triangular formations, and it had just finished snowing. So I zoomed in, and I got the coolest abstract photo. And I was like, okay, I need to change my lens every once in a while. It'll be fun. So my most recent lull happened about 1.5 years ago. I got juried into an art show that, like I said, only had 2 photographers. For the first time ever, they bumped it up to 6 photographers, and I was feeling the pressure. If you were at Focus last time, you know my go-to, not only do I have a go-to lens, I love black and white photography. And the black and white photography is what got me into the show. But as you can see, and I have no issues with these images, I love them all, but they're all the same. They're all very long, all very black and white, and like I said, I like a long perspective. But not only in black and white, I tend to do the same thing in color. And what's really funny is I must be the anomaly of landscape photographers, because landscape photographers, it's even in the title, it's landscape portrait, and I shoot everything vertical. And so 5 months before going to the show, I had all my black and whites already picked. There were the 4 that you saw up there, and then a handful of others. And I started to panic. One, it's hard to sell black and white photography in a Western show. And I wanted something different. And I was feeling a little uninspired about the black and white. So, oh, and just, I forgot about this part. I also can do landscapes as well, in landscape orientations. I had to throw this in there to prove to you guys that I just don't do verticals all the time. And so my very first time out shooting was with Neil. Didn't have enough intimidation. My regular shooting partner is Dennis, who everything is freaking colorful as possible, and I shoot black and white. But I can shoot a sunset as well. So I was scouring the internet looking for something for motivation, literally 5 months before the show, and I came across this image and I'm like, wow, that's really pretty. But there's one thing, I don't like flowers. I'm horribly allergic to them. And it's very cliche for a woman photographer to do flower photography. I like my black and whites. But I started investigating this photographer, and she used a lens called a lens baby. This is literally with a minor curves adjustment straight out of camera. And this is with what's a lens baby build 56. So here's the 2 challenges that I had. I'm used to shooting with lenses that I don't have to move. I can go from 17 to 40. I can go from 70 to 200. This is a 56 millimeter lens. I now either have to go like this and move myself. When I printed this image, the gallery, one of the gallery owners picked it up right away and said, it's going in the gallery. I'm like, are you? And she's like, are those lights? How'd you do that? The lens does it. It's like I said, it's called a Velvet 56. It puts a funky twist on things, and it makes this ethereal glow. Now, I'm coming from the land of I like everything sharp focus. I shoot everything. I think my lowest f-stop is f8. I shoot everything from 11 up to 22 with landscapes. This is f1.4. And if you can find a sharp point in that image, kudos to you. I think it focuses in the very center, which is another thing that you're told not to do. And I started standing in the middle of trees and just shooting. And then, again, the gallery owner picked this one up as well. And she's like, how'd you hang all the lights? I'm like, sunset, leaves coming through the forest. I got lucky with this lens.
But the gallery owner over there.
And then it puts a really funky glow on everything. The trees don't really shine that bright light. But I love the twist that it started doing. And so I thought, well, I have all these black and whites. Let's start printing some images. And so I'm out shooting with a group of friends. David might recognize this as he was hovering over. I started shooting these funky weeds to see what they would do and printing them on canvas. And I'm like, well, we're going to make a go at it. And that was my showpiece. That was the one I had that I was centering around all my other images. The very first image I took with this lens baby was this image, and it was my first piece that showed at the show. Everyone would walk back my black and whites. The black and whites is what stopped them. I would have 30 and 40-minute conversations. They would turn around and go, I want that. And I'm like, what just happened?
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes? I'm almost done.
Okay.
So I started, like I said, getting in closer. With my landscapes, I tend to be far out and really long. And then I started playing with this lens even more. And then there's the funky bends that it would give things. And then I found out what I did after that, because I got so happy with this lens that I bought 3 more. And one is currently sitting on my camera now. And it's just so much fun. But then what I found out what happened is that it brought back my passion. Oops. It brought back the passion for my 17 to 40. And for some reason, it's not coming up. It brought back my passion for the 17 to 40, and I started looking at things a little differently. For any of you who are familiar, that's Dodge Lane in Fallon. And if they haven't shot Bonsai Rock or Churchill in Fallon, that might be the second most popular one to shoot.
We all know it's Dodge Lane.
Yeah. And then I still went back to the lens baby and started getting a little closer. And these are the locks out at Lovelock. And I got some really good positive reviews on that. And then when it said change your lens and change your perspective, like I said, I typically shoot with a 17 to 40. I've been going at, you want to talk another public, this is Hazen. And most of the shots that you see of Hazen are back away, the red and the white, the sky in the background. I went out for 2 days straight looking for something to shoot and couldn't find anything. I'm sitting in the parking lot and I have the 70 to 200 on my lens, or my camera, and I look over and I'm like, I've never seen that number before. And so I got out and shot the door. While Thomas Michelson and Jim Brandenburg are my heroes, in landscape photography there's a gentleman by the name of Charlie Waite. If you're not familiar with him, he does Landscape Photographer of the Year. And on Instagram, he liked that photo, and my year has been made. If you need any more motivation than that, having your hero like your photo, I'm done. So anyway, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure being